Yeah, words have a lot of fucking power, don't they? You know, a few weeks ago, I was down in Poston. Poston, Arizona is the site of one of the largest concentration camps in the United States. It was the third largest city in Arizona during World War II. They interned Japanese Americans and people of Japanese ancestry there. And you know, down between Tucson and Phoenix, there's another one. It was the fourth largest city. And it was Gila River. And so they were called Poston and the Rivers by Japanese who were put in those prisons. Now that visit to Poston really reminded me of a time and reminded me of something that's really very important to me. It's like, what do people call you? What do people think you are? Like, who the fuck are you? You know what I'm saying? Who are you? Who are you, babe?
Tony.
Tony, right. But what if people start calling you something? What if they start calling you like, Tony, you're up? Something. He should be up here telling the story. And I've been called a lot of names in my time. A lot of names, you know. I'm just a Jap boy. I was called Jap a long time. Until people put all Orientals in the same group. So now we're Goops. My dad was a Jap boy. He was born in Chicago. His parents were Jap immigrants. They were researchers and scientists. Daddy was a doctor. But you know, I'll tell you another thing. I was called hillbilly trash. Now, you know, I don't know about that one. But I'll tell you why. My mama was a hillbilly. She's born in West Virginia. Her dad was a coal miner. He was killed by a coal train, in fact. They called her white trash. They called her hillbilly trash. And so when all of us mixed blood children were walking around with their, well, yeah, you're all hillbilly trash. That's clear. And there were four brothers. I had four brothers. I had four sisters. They're all beauties. All beauties. But I'll tell you, in our time, we've been called some hard goddamn fucking names. I'll tell you. We've lived in different parts of the country, Ohio, Arizona. We lived in Massachusetts. We lived in New York. We lived in Florida. Some of us, we were called Japs or Gooks. Some of us were called white trash. Some of us were called niggers. And the reason is, the five of us, the five oldest, we're half Japanese. Half Japanese. So I'm the oldest. Then there's Vicky and Mark, Patrice and Robert. Then we have two white sisters. Two white sisters, different father. Two white sisters, Tony and Andrea. Then we have two black brothers, Michael and Maddie. Michael and Maddie, different fathers, different mothers. So we lived in a lot of places in the United States, in America. And America is a great country, because I've been in a lot of other countries. But I'll tell you what, people still call us goddamn hard fucking names. Nigger, gook, Jack, hillbilly trash. It's hard, man, I gotta tell you. You know what it's like. I know you've been called names, you know, different times. I know those names hurt you at different times. But there we were. What were we to do except try to own who we were? Try to be who we were, and what were we? We were niggers and gooks and hillbillies. So we formed this clan, and we started calling ourselves the Nigger Hillbilly Gooks. That's who we were. You want to say something about it? You step the fuck up here, you know? Well, in the 50s, America was a different place. I spent a lot of time in the South because my dad was drafted during the Korean War. They wouldn't let him fight in World War II. You know, he was lucky to escape the concentration camps, but he and his family were pretty much under house arrest in Cincinnati. But they drafted him in the Korean War, right? So he went to Korea, and then he came back, and he was stationed at Eglin Air Force Base in Panhandle, Florida. Now, generally, that's a very beautiful area, right? Very beautiful area. But, you know, for us, we were colored people. That's okay. We were, my mama was, but the rest of us, we were colored people. And so, you know, we used the colored bathrooms. We used the colored fountains. We sat in the colored sections of the bus, of the restaurant, of wherever the fuck we were. And so that's okay, but it wasn't okay when we got beat down. And we got beat down a lot, I want to tell you. We got beat down, white fucking cracker boys, bad boys. Beat the shit out of me so many times. My nose was broken so bad for many years, I had chronic throat infection. It was not a great place to be. But who was I? Who was I but some gook at the end of a fist? Right? The 60s, that's a different time. Now colored boys, colored girls, we start to step up. Who the fuck do you think you are? I'm as good as you. Step back, Jack. Step back, motherfucker. Right? But the truth of it is, even in the 60s, my dad couldn't get a haircut in a lot of barber shop. In the north, it was definitely in the south. His hair, I'm surprised it wasn't just, you know, a big bush, you know, in the south. And in the 70s, what we had? Well, we had disco. Well, that's something, you know. You saw a lot of people, you know, dancing on the floor, lots of colors of people, and you're underneath that fucking glitzy, reflecting thing, you know. What did it reflect? It reflected a false sense of togetherness. And I tell you, it's a false sense because I'll tell you what happened to mixed race people and colored people in the 70s. Very common. In the 70s, as you know, there was a vicious war in Southeast Asia. I was a Buddhist then, still am in fact. But I decided I could not go to Vietnam. Now, I would have fought in World War II. They would have put me in a segregated unit like the 442nd All-Nisei Regimental Combat Team or in the 92nd Negro Infantry. That would have been fine. I would have fought in Korea too for America. But the Vietnam War was a different thing for me. I did not feel I could go. I applied for a conscientious objector status. It was denied. So I was drafted in the fall of 1970. So I refused induction. And I said, I'll give 2 years of service to the country. I don't have any issues with that whatsoever. I left home, I left college, I went to Boston and tried to look for jobs. And so the FBI searches for you and they find you eventually. They found me and they said, you got to come into our office. I went into the office. They read the Miranda rights to me, you know, said we want to interview you. So they interviewed me, they had the big fucking file. And then they put the file on the fast track conveyor belt to prosecution. Right? So, okay, so now I said, well, I'll still get 2 years. But what the hell, how am I going to do this? I went in to apply for jobs. Yeah, I'd like to apply for this job. I'm pretty qualified for it. There's one thing. I've been interviewed by the FBI, Department of Justice. I'll probably be prosecuted, put in jail. And so they looked at me and said, get the fuck out of here. Well, I did find a job, and the only reason I found a job was because the director of the Boston City Hospital Lead Poisoning Prevention Center was also an activist against the Vietnam War. And he said, boy, you come here work for me. You save American lives here and now. And so I got this job screening Boston ghetto children for lead poisoning. We save probably, well, I don't know, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 children a year by identifying lead poisoning and clearing their systems of lead. And I hitched a ride with him one day. My wife at the time was working at Pine Manor Junior College. Chestnut Hills, if you know that area, in those days it was a wealthy white area. And so I get out of the car, and I'm walking up towards Pine Manor Junior College, and you know, things seem fine. It's a beautiful spring day. You know, I'm looking around these big, beautiful ass houses. I think I'm never going to be able to afford these, but they're nice to look at. I see this police car going parallel to me. I don't think any police cars are all over the place. But he's so slow. He's going so slow. And I'm thinking, what the hell? So I'm walking, and on part of the sidewalk, there's a big hedge, about 8-foot tall hedge. You know, I'm walking up there, and all of a sudden, you know, he pulls across traffic. He uses his car to drive me right up into that hedge. Right up into the hedge. Man, the fucking hood hit me in the balls. The bumpers on my legs. I'm thinking, what the fuck is going on here? You know, and so then he gets out, his hands on his gun. He says, boy, what you doing in this neighborhood? On the inside, I'm saying, you motherfucking cracker. You don't have a right to drive me into this hedge. And then on the outside, I say, I'm going to meet my wife. And then he says, your wife doesn't live in this neighborhood. And I said, no, sir, she doesn't. She works at Pine Manor Junior College up the road just a bit. What, is she the cleaning lady up there? I said, no, sir, she's the reference librarian. He says, show me some ID. I'm up against his head, man. The car's all over me. I'm trying to get the thing out of my pocket, you know, and I'm thinking, okay, if I get that wallet out, I could just flip it over here. You know, he'd bend to pick it up. I jump up on the hood, you know. I jump down, bam, bam, bam. I hit that motherfucker, kick him, I run up the street and hide in Pine Manor Junior College. Of course, that's stupid. You know that. They shoot me. You know? You can imagine the headline. Bam, bam. Nigger Gook attacks cop in Chestnut Hills. Nigger Gook is shot in the scuffle. Nigger Gook dead on the scene. 8 bullet wounds from a 6-shot service revolver. Well, he let me go after a little bit of hassle. But my point is this. My brothers and sisters, we're nigger gooks. Hillbilly nigger gooks, gook hillbilly niggers. But the important thing is, we tried to search for who we were. And we were always coming up to something in this shifting landscape of identity. You know, we're looking at how someone looks at us and says, who are you? What name are they going to give me? How I give a name to somebody about who I am. How I look down deep to my deep dream and say, who am I really? How I try to build a culture around myself and my family. And sometimes, how do I deal with a situation where a fucking racist busted my ass or tries to take after someone that I really love? What the fuck do I do in that situation? So, yeah, we're the nigger hillbilly gooks. Always running wild to try to find an elusive identity. Running wild to try to find our heart and make a home where our heart is and own that heart. You feel me, baby?